Consular notification, duties of the peace officer. The topic of consular notification concerns the legal duties of a peace officer when a person who is not a citizen of the United States is arrested or detained. This duty exists because the United States is a party to an international treaty. That treaty is called the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations. This treaty is binding law in the United States. It is not optional. Failure to comply may result in legal consequences, civil liability, and international disputes. The Vienna Convention on Consular Relations. Article 36 of the Vienna Convention governs consular notification. Under Article 36, when a foreign national is arrested, detained, or otherwise taken into custody, the arresting authority must inform the person of their right to have their consulate notified. This obligation applies to all foreign nationals. It applies regardless of immigration status. It applies whether the person is lawfully or unlawfully present in the United States. The officer does not decide whether the law applies. The officer must comply. Officer duty to inform. The officer must inform the detainee without delay that they have the right to consular notification. The detainee must be told that they may communicate with their consulate. The detainee must be told that consular officials may contact them. The officer must document the detainee's decision. Documentation is required whether the detainee agrees or refuses. Rights of the foreign national. A foreign national has the right to communicate with officials of their home country. They have the right to receive visits from consular officers. They have the right to receive legal assistance arranged through the consulate. They have the right to have consular officials monitor the progress of their case. They have the right to have consular officials monitor conditions of confinement. They may receive food, medicine, reading materials, or other assistance. These rights exist to ensure fairness and prevent isolation. Limitation on consular action. Consular officers must stop assisting if the detainee expressly opposes consular involvement. This refusal must be clear and documented. However, this limitation does not apply in all cases. Mandatory consular notification. Some countries are subject to mandatory consular notification. Mandatory notification exists because of bilateral treaties between the United States and certain foreign governments. When mandatory notification applies, the officer must notify the consulate regardless of the detainee's wishes. The detainee cannot refuse mandatory notification. Privacy rights do not override mandatory notification. Failure to notify in these cases is a violation of treaty obligations. Optional consular notification. If the detainee's country is not subject to mandatory notification, notification is optional. In optional cases, the officer must ask the detainee whether they want their consulate notified. If the detainee says yes, the officer must notify the consulate. If the detainee says no, the officer must take no further action regarding notification. The detainee's response must still be documented. Required arrest procedure for foreign nationals. When arresting or detaining a foreign national, the officer must follow a specific sequence. First, the officer must ask whether the person is a United States citizen. Second, the officer must determine the person's country of citizenship. Third, the officer must check whether the country requires mandatory notification. Fourth, the officer must read the appropriate statement from the consular notification pocket card. Fifth, the officer must record the detainee's response. Sixth, if notification is required or requested, the officer must notify the consulate without delay. Seventh, the officer must document the notification, including date, time, method, and person contacted. Each step is required. Skipping a step is an error. Timing of notification. Notification must occur without delay. Most bilateral treaties allow a maximum of 72 hours. Officers should not wait unless legally necessary. Delay without justification may constitute a violation. Purpose of consular notification. Consular notification exists to ensure that foreign nationals are not placed in a position where they cannot receive assistance from their government. It promotes fairness in the justice system. It protects United States citizens arrested abroad through reciprocity. It reduces litigation and diplomatic conflict. It is the law of the land. Consular notification tools. Officers are issued a Consular Notification and Access Handbook. Officers are also issued a Consular Notification Pocket Card. The handbook identifies mandatory notification countries. The Pocket Card contains exact statements that must be read to detainees. Officers are expected to know how to use both tools. Diplomatic immunity. Some individuals may claim diplomatic immunity. Diplomatic immunity is handled through the Department of State. Officers follow the CAN principle. C means call the Department of State to verify immunity. A means assist by documenting the incident and issuing citations if appropriate. N means notify the Department of State by sending reports and citations. Immunity does not override officer safety or public safety. Section 2. Civil process and liability. Legal responsibility of officers. Civil liability overview. Peace officers hold positions of authority and trust. Improper actions may result in civil liability. Civil liability means legal responsibility for harm. An officer may be sued individually. An agency may be sued. Cities, counties, and states may also be sued. Sources of liability. Liability may arise from negligence. Liability may arise from misuse of authority. Liability may arise from failure to follow policy. Liability may arise from failure to perform a legal duty. Civil lawsuits may result in monetary damages. They may also damage public trust and professional credibility. Criminal law. Criminal law involves offences against the state. Criminal cases are prosecuted by the government. Criminal offences are defined in the Penal Code. Criminal penalties may include fines, imprisonment, or execution. The standard of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. Criminal acts are offences against the peace and dignity of the state. Civil law. Civil law involves disputes between private parties. Civil cases seek remedies, not punishment. Remedies may include money damages or court orders. The standard of proof is preponderance of the evidence. Civil procedures are governed by the Texas Civil Practice and Remedies Code. Contempt of court. Contempt of court is conduct that obstructs the administration of justice. General contempt occurs in the presence of the court. Constructive contempt occurs outside the presence of the court. Constructive contempt requires formal notice and a hearing. Punishment depends on the type of court involved. Higher courts may impose fines up to $500 and jail up to 6 months. Justice and municipal courts may impose fines up to $100 and jail up to 3 days. Failure to execute civil process. Sheriffs and constables are required to execute civil process. Failure to execute or return process may result in contempt of court. Making a false return is an offense. Officers may be liable for damages caused by neglect or refusal to act. Texas court system. Courts in Texas are created by 3 authorities. They may be created by the Texas Constitution. They may be created by the Texas legislature. They may be created by municipal governments. Jurisdiction refers to a court's authority to hear a case. Criminal jurisdiction depends on offense severity. Civil jurisdiction depends on dollar amount or subject matter. Appeals must be heard by courts of superior jurisdiction. Civil action process. A civil action begins when a plaintiff files a petition. The defendant is served with a citation. The defendant must file an answer. Failure to respond may result in a default judgment. If no settlement occurs, the case proceeds to trial. The court issues a judgment. Judgments are enforced by sheriffs or constables.